In this video, we're talking about all things flood zones here in New Bern, North Carolina. This is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, and play right here in New Bern, North Carolina, then consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to hit that bell icon. That way you'll be notified every time I drop a new video. My name is Ray Copeland. I am a licensed real estate broker. Our brokerage is sellingnorthcarolina.com. Look, we get calls, texts, emails every single week from people just like you thinking about moving here to the New Bern area. So if that's you and you've been thinking about making the move, do not hesitate. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Days, nights, weekends, we got your back when moving to New Bern. All right, so like I said, in this video, we're talking about flood zones here in New Bern, North Carolina. I have gotten tons of questions over the past several months, over the past couple of years, and I looked back at my YouTube channel. I'm like, why have I not made a somewhat detailed video about flood zones here in New Bern, North Carolina? And also I'm going to go over a website that you can use while you're doing your research and due diligence. You're maybe in the research or planning phase, thinking about moving here to the New Bern area. So I'm going to give you a website, really cool tool you can use. You can pop in an address and you can see which flood zone that property is located in. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to my computer. As you can see here, this website is fris.nc.gov. fris.nc.gov. Don't worry, I'm still going to link this website down in the description of this video, but let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, typically you would type in an address. So if you're researching a home, you can type in an address. It's going to take you right to the home. But for the purposes of making this video, let's just type in New Bern. All right, I'm going to try to get through this as quick as possible. First of all, let me say I am not a licensed insurance agent. So if you really want to know specifically all the details to get very granular as to whether or not you're going to be required to have flood insurance, especially if you're using a lending company, if you're going to have a mortgage on your home, depending on what flood zone you're in, the lender will may or may not mandate you to carry flood insurance. Okay, so you need to speak to a licensed insurance agent. If you would like me to introduce you to one, I know a great one. His name is Ben Britt with Farm Bureau. Reach out to me and I'll get you connected with Ben. All right, so we're going to go over the flood zones that you see here. They're shaded with colors. So there are 3 flood zones on this map that are shaded with colors. And then there is a 4th flood zone. And that 4th flood zone may surprise you. A lot of people will incorrectly say that it's not a flood zone, but the areas that do not have a shaded color, it is also a flood zone. But we'll talk about that in just a second. So first things first, I'm going to start with the most high risk flood zone area, and then we're going to work our way down to the least risk flood zone area. So the green one is flood zone VE. You will see flood zone VE at the beaches a lot. More so, it's more common in a beach environment and more coastal environment. Like when I say coast, like more of the Outer Banks, the beach areas like Emerald Isle, Atlantic Beach. And so we still have it here. I don't deal with it too much in transactions. There are areas that are in flood zone VE. I've just not personally dealt with it that much, but flood zone VE is the highest risk area. And so we won't spend too much time on that, but I can tell you this: if you're in flood zone VE and the property you want to buy is in flood zone VE, it is the highest risk area and it will be the most expensive flood insurance of all the flood areas that you see here on the map. All the flood zones that you see here on the map, flood zone VE, the green area, is going to be the most expensive. Then we move over to blue, which is flood zone AE. This is what's called, it's the 1% annual chance. It's called flood zone AE, but there is a 1% annual chance. They also call this the 100-year floodplain, because obviously 1% takes 1% to equal 100%. So from general terms, 100-year floodplain. But there is a 1% annual chance of flooding in flood zone AE. Then we move over to the yellow, which is the 0.2% flood chance. And obviously this is also called the 500-year floodplain. That's another term for it. Obviously they're getting 500-year floodplain. I mean, they're getting the 500-year floodplain because to go from 0.2% on an annual basis and to get all the way to 100%, it would take 500 years. So 100-year floodplain, 500-year floodplain, and then zone VE is the green one. The unshaded area. Now, when I first started in real estate, I was also incorrect in this. I said that you're good. You're not in a flood area. I was educated. I just didn't know. All right. And I still hear a lot of real estate agents today. They still will say, hey, you are not in a flood zone. You're good. Now, you may be good. Now, I can't guarantee that you'll be good, but you probably will not flood. It's a possibility that you may not flood depending on which part of flood zone X that you're in, but it's still a flood zone. As you can see here, flood zone X over here, zone X, minimal flood risk. Look, I had someone tell me one time, if it rains at your house, if you get rain, then you have the chance of flooding. Just know that an unshaded area is still a flood zone. Now, it's the least risk chances. You have the less chance of flooding in flood zone X than any other flood zone. Okay, and so you're not going to be mandated to carry flood insurance in flood zone X. The 500-year floodplain, the 0.2% chance, which is the yellow, you may or may not. That's why you need to speak to a qualified insurance agent, a licensed insurance agent. And I always recommend, especially here in Eastern North Carolina, talk with a local insurance agent. They know the flood zones like the back of their hand, and they are just more equipped to handle your questions and be able to handle just flood insurance in general here in Eastern North Carolina. So like I said, the 0.2% chance, the 500-year floodplain, the yellow, you may or may not. The insurance agent will let you know. And then the blue, flood zone AE, almost 100% of the time, if your home that you're buying is in flood zone AE, which is the blue, you're going to have to carry flood insurance. You will be mandated to carry flood insurance, and definitely in the green, you're going to have to carry flood insurance. But let's just say this. Let's say you're not going to use a mortgage. Let's say you're just going to pay pay for your home in all cash. So if you are in, me personally, if I'm in any of these shaded areas, yellow, blue, or green, I'm definitely going to have private flood insurance. I'm personally going to still buy flood insurance because better safe than sorry. When it comes to flood zone X, I personally think it's obviously personal preference. You're not going to be mandated to carry flood insurance if you're financing your home. But I still would proceed with caution depending on your proximity. If you're in flood zone X, what's the proximity to the 500 and the 100-year floodplain? All right. How close are you? So if I'm like right here, I'm going to drop the pin right there. Like, let's just say you're buying this building right here. I mean, that's just so close to the 100 and 500-year floodplain that I'm probably, just for the sake of, comfort, I'm probably just still going to get flood insurance. All right. I think it's the smart thing to do. Even if I'm in here, even if I'm, in the middle of this, I'm not going to, I can't say that you will never flood because it's flood zone X and it literally says minimal flood risk. Think about this. When Hurricane Florence came in 2018, some of the, after Hurricane Florence, the FEMA flood maps, the flood lines and these zones, they were redone, they were redrawn. And some of these areas that were labeled flood zone X, like this right here, let's just say this was flood zone X before Florence. Well, a lot of these lines were redrawn because water came in areas that had never come in before. Water came in further inland than it had ever came. So because of that, places flooded for the first time in its history. So these flood zones had to be redrawn. They had to be expanded to include more land because more areas flooded for the first time. So I hope that makes sense. All right. So remember, flood zone X is still a flood zone. All right. It's still a flood zone. It's just the least risk. So let's just use our common sense. When you're buying a home, just because you're in flood zone X doesn't mean that you just need to completely write off flood insurance. I just think we need to look on the map, talk to your insurance agent, just see where you're at in flood zone X in relations to the 100-year and 500-year floodplain, which is the yellow and blue. Just see where you're at in relations to that, and then you'll know. Now, for instance, for example, if you were to go out here on the bypass and you were to get more, let's just say you were to get more rural in your area, I'm just going to go out here. You know, if I'm going to be right in here in this neighborhood over here, as you can see here, I'm gonna drop the pin right there. Let's say we're buying a home right there, you know, or we're buying a home in this neighborhood. Me personally, I'm far enough away from the 100-year and 500-year floodplain that I'm personally comfortable with not, you know, volunteering for flood insurance. I'm not going to be mandated to carry it there. All right. But I'm probably still not going to get it when I'm that far away from other flood zones. Now, that's a personal preference and that's a decision for you to make. So, so let me zoom out here again. So like I said, this website, I will link it down in the description of this video, frizz.nc.gov. I just wanted to make this quick video so you had a basic understanding of these flood zones, what they mean, and kind of what it will entail if you're financing a home or whether you're not financing a home. I think it's still good information to know. Like I said, if you want more detailed and granular information on flood insurance, reach out to me. I will get you connected with Ben Britt from Farm Bureau, or you can just reach out to, you can Google Ben Britt. And I'll link Ben's information down in the description of this video as well. And he will take good care of you and answer all of the questions that you will have in regards to flood insurance. So once again, frizz.nc.gov. Let me go back to the main page here. That is not right. All right. So here we go. Homepage here. I'll link this website down in the description of this video. I hope it is useful to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you're thinking about moving to the New Bern area, would love to hear from you. My number is 252-649-3081, and all my contact information is down in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. If you got value from this, consider subscribing and like this video. It really does help me. It pushes this video out, the YouTube algorithm and all that fancy stuff. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.